Good evening. Welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. In about 30 minutes or so, Mehul Choksi will be produced before a court in Dominica. The question that hangs before him, will he be deported back to Antigua, where he is unwelcome, or will he be sent back to India to stand trial for the PNB scam in which he is a co-accused? But first, this.
Choksi must have shifted base. No possibility of abduction, but we are verifying details with authorities.
Dominican government is cooperating with the Antiguan and Indian governments. Mr. Choksi will be deported from Dominica.
Plane has been sent to Dominica to bring back Choksi. The private plane was chartered from Qatar. Top government sources say officials flew to facilitate the emergency certificate.
After legal consultations, the MEA will file an affidavit in the court on behalf of the Government of India.
Can you confirm or deny that you ever met this gentleman, Chetan Choksi?
No, I do not know Chetan Choksi.
Show, we're getting in some breaking news. The top government sources have told CNN News 18 that the letter written by the Antiguan Prime Minister Gaston Browne to Mehul Choksi back in 2019, where he explicitly says that Mr. Choksi concealed information at the time of granting of citizenship, that letter will be produced by the Government of India in the Dominican court, where he will be produced moments from now. In that letter, Gaston Browne, the Antiguan Prime Minister, had accused Choksi of concealing facts. This letter endorses exactly what India has been saying along, that his Antiguan citizenship needs to be cancelled because he's wanted for trial in the massive corruption case here in India. Ashish Mahershi is joining us with more details. So this document from 2019 will be produced in court today, along with the affidavit that the Government of India through the MEA will be filing before the court.
Yes, in fact, this is the major document. This is one of the most important document because this is the stand that India has been taking for a while, Zaka. This document supports that stand. And that is why this document is going to be one of the most important document when the affidavit will be submitted. But it's not only about this document. India will be giving copy of charge sheets as well that has been filed against Mehul Choksi related to money laundering as well as under Prevention of Corruption Act that has been filed by the Central Bureau of Investigation. But having said that, what is going to be very important to see, we are going to see the hearing in another half an hour, 45 minutes. The court should start the hearing. What is most important, Zaka, is going to be whether Indian affidavit or the Indian story will be heard in the court or not, whether it will be accepted on in the court or not. Because as of now, the court is hearing the case related to his illegal entry into Dominica. It has got nothing to do with CBI case or an ED case. In case the affidavit is accepted by Dominica court, then it becomes very, very important. It will be very interesting. Then it will be, India will actually sense an opportunity after that to get him from Dominica to India, deport him, because we don't have an extradition treaty with Dominica. So in case the court is ready to accept our story, in case that the Dominica court accepts our affidavit, then it becomes very interesting, and we also sense, everybody senses a chance that yes, Mehul Choksi can come to India.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Court proceedings will begin in about half an hour or so. We'll be in touch with you, Ashish Mahershi. Meanwhile, let me go across to the man who is representing Mehul Choksi, at least in his cases here in India. Vijay Agarwal is Mehul Choksi's lawyer. First of all, have you been in touch with your client in the last few days ever since news emerged of him, being found in Dominica? What is his condition right now, both physically and mentally? We saw some pictures of him the other day with a bruised eye. Have you established contact either with him directly or with his family members who are there either in Antigua or in Dominica?
I'm in contact with the relevant people, and I have the complete authentic information. Exactly who do I speak to? That's my client attorney privilege communication, and he's been tested COVID negative, and at the moment he is in hospital recovering from his brutal wounds given to him by the operatives appointed by various agencies who took him, who
No,
abducted him and took him to
so,
Dominica.
Mr. Agarwal, you have been maintaining this whole abduction theory that your client was tortured, etc. What material proof do you have that your client was abducted from Antigua and taken forcibly to Dominica?
I cannot have material because nobody gets abducted by wearing a body cam so that he can record, and tomorrow if some journalist asks this question from his lawyer on a channel, he can produce that video footage. But commonsensical facts I can give you. First fact is that his passport remains still in Antigua. If one wants to vanish on his own, he will carry his passport. Number one. The moment he did not report for dinner at his house, his family raised a hue and cry. If he was to vanish, then his family would have waited for people to find out after months together that where is he. Number two.
Okay.
Number three, how can the wounds, so many wounds come on his body? Number four, that he was perfectly legally safe. He was in a legal safe haven in Antigua, having exercised his legal remedy, having obtained stay on the two stays on the processing of the extradition request. So it is illogical and opposed to common
No,
sense that he will land
you
himself
say
in
that
Dominica.
you say that your client was safe. He was in a legal safe haven, as it were, in Antigua. But we have access to letters written by the Antiguan Prime Minister as far back as October 2019, when your client was in the process of getting Antiguan citizenship, where he said that Mr. Choksi deliberately concealed facts and therefore they are revoking the citizenship. The Antiguan Prime Minister is saying that they don't want your client as an Antiguan citizen.
You are saying no less somebody. I'm saying it is much less. See, I believe in rule of law. For me, these executives, politicians don't matter. And when we do a lot of cases, these politicians are lying on the reception waiting for us for hours together. So I don't, these politicians don't impress me. But let me tell you, on this letter itself, there is a court stay. This particular letter itself, there is a stay on various grounds that this letter does not give details. This letter is not in accordance with law. This letter has been given in a prejudged manner, and does not satisfy the requirement of law. So on this letter itself, there is a stay for last 2 years. This is not a new letter. So
Okay.
this doesn't impress me. It is not a new letter. So your channel might have access this now. It is lying buried in the Antiguan
No,
courts.
but you tell me this. We are given to understand, and we've accessed the MEA affidavit, which they are trying to present before the court today. The government of India is also trying to implead itself in this case, where they are saying explicitly that Mr. Choksi may have acquired the citizenship of another country, but the MHA and the MEA have not formally cancelled his Indian citizenship. Therefore, he continues to be an Indian citizen and he should be deported to India. How do you respond to that?
In your question, you presuppose that I'm aware of any such affidavit. Firstly, I'm not aware of any such affidavit. And I believe that there cannot be any such affidavit because whatever affidavits were to be served, they have been served on us. And it does not contain any such affidavit from MEA. And there is no point they're submitting any affidavit because they are not a party.
Okay, Mr. Vijay Agarwal, we'll be in touch with you after today's hearing. Let's see what the court there in Dominica decides vis-a-vis your client. Meanwhile, the other big story that emerged today from the Caribbean island of Dominica was that Mehul Choksi's brother, Chetan Choksi, allegedly bribed the leader of the opposition in Dominica, Mr. Lennox Linton, who I spoke to some time back, and he has outright denied the charge. Can you confirm or deny that you ever met this gentleman, Chetan Choksi, and the allegation that's been made by this particular news organization, Associate Times, that you received some kind of a bribe from this gentleman?
No, I do not know Chetan Choksi. I have never seen him. I have never spoken to or with him. I have never met him. So I do not know where this newspaper got that story from, but it's a newspaper that nobody in Dominica knows. I've never seen that newspaper before. I've never heard anything about it before this allegation surfaced that I had accepted some bribe or the other from Chetan Choksi, the brother of Mehul Choksi. It is absolutely false. It is totally untrue. And it's a story that appears to be coming from operatives in the passport selling business who are upset about the comments that I made in a statement issued to the media earlier this week. I don't know, as I said, Chetan Choksi. I've never met him, any member of his family or associate, and I've never taken any money from anybody
Okay.
in exchange for favors, or to do anything or not do anything, or to promise to do anything or not do anything.
All right, that was Lennox Linton, the opposition leader in Dominica. But let me open this up to our guest, Dr. Anshul Avijit, this Congress spokesperson, Swapnil Kothari, senior lawyer, and Tuin Sinha, BJP spokesperson, joining us. Tuin, I'll start with you because you heard what Mr. Choksi's lawyer is saying, that the government of India or the MEA has no locus standi in today's case, because today's case is simply whether Mehul Choksi entered Dominica illegally, and if the court finds him to have entered Dominica illegally, they simply deport him from the place where he came from, and that is Antigua. So what's the role of the government of India?
So the accused, the lawyer of the accused will only try to hoodwink. So I would rather not comment on that. And as far as the government is concerned, in the last couple of years, the CBI, ED, and IT have left no stone unturned in trying to extradite both Choksi and Nirav. And in Nirav's case, we have obtained success, a good amount of success in London. Now, over here, as you can see, the Antiguan Prime Minister, Gaston Browne, has unequivocally supported India's stand. He has made it very clear that Choksi had obtained citizenship by hiding facts, and even now he has pledged his support to the extradition of Mr. Choksi, and also the concurrent perusal of the criminal charges against him. Now, while his lawyer over here may argue that India does not have a locus standi, I do feel that the courts would take cognizance of India's position that he continued to remain an Indian citizen when he applied, or when he surreptitiously tried to maneuver a citizenship for himself in Antigua. And that ideally should be the game changer. In any case, we have taken a very proactive stand by sending a jet across with relevant documents, and with showing a readiness to get this absconder back. I think that's a very proactive approach.
Anshul Avijit, the point is, and no less than the Prime Minister of Antigua has said, that they were made aware of a deliberate concealment of facts by Mr. Choksi, and that's how he ended up getting the citizenship. And they've taken this matter to court in Antigua, where they've argued that because he deliberately concealed this information, his citizenship should be revoked. So surely he can't be deported to a country where the government doesn't want him as a citizen.
Zaka, that's not the primary question. I mean, he certainly should be brought back, and if the Indian authorities argue the case well, I believe there's a seasoned group of lawyers that have been gone from London to argue his case. Well, if he get him back, then well and good. I mean, this has all the ingredients of a classic, sort of a Netflix potboiler, dalliance. It has there's cases of bribery, political connections, abduction, court cases, but that's not the primary question. The primary question is, where is the money gone? Have we got any part of the money back? Once we get him back, how will we get the rest of the money back? A document that was released by the RBI in their annual report over the past few years of the bank frauds, and this is an excellent time, Zaka, an excellent peg to study bank frauds in the last 5 years in this country. The numbers that have been revealed are absolutely staggering. This year alone, in 2020-21, the bank fraud amount increased, or rather went up to 1,38,422 crores. That's a staggering amount of money.
No, so Anshul, just on the point that you are asking, where is the money? The ED and the CBI have already attached a number of his properties and properties of Nirav Modi in Mumbai, certainly, and I think also in Delhi, but certainly in Mumbai. So that's as much as what they can do.
Well, certainly get him back. He has a lot to answer for. I mean, this was a huge scam. Some estimates say over 20,000 crores. My important question is, what have you done about reducing the level of the scams in this country in the past 5 years?
Okay.
I mean, it has increased to
right.
5
That's a
lakh
different
crores.
debate. That's a different debate. We'll
That
have that.
debate,
No,
Zaka,
we'll have that another
otherwise-
day. Right now, let's focus on Choksi. So let me ask Swapnil Kothari, and let's be very clear about this, Swapnil Kothari. So far, the case that's going to come up in the Dominica court in about 20 minutes' time has nothing to do with his corruption, has nothing to do with the Punjab National Bank. This is simply whether he entered another sovereign country illegally, and if the judge feels he did, then she sends him back to the country that he came from. So what is the government of India's role here? And how does the government of India convince a judge in a third country that no, please send him back to us because he's wanted for all of these things in our country?
The reason why the Indian government authorities have a locus standi out there is simply because, Zaka, is that this gentleman defrauded the Indian country, defrauded India, went to Antigua, bought the citizenship by investment, concealing material facts, which have themselves been admitted by Gaston Browne, I think the Antiguan Prime Minister. And that's the reason why his citizenship is in question. And he's fled Antigua. I do not believe that he was abducted at all. That's a bogus theory. And the human rights issue is all he's trying to drum it up simply because, that's the sympathy tactic. And obviously his modus operandi was to go to Dominica and then on to Cuba and to United States, I'm sure about it. That's not what is, that is not what is touted out to be by his lawyers, which I don't think they will do that anyway because they hold a different brief altogether. Now, I don't want to get into that part. The most important part is that the India has a locus standi to argue. Now, whether or not Dominica as a sovereign country says that, it can very well say to India, look, you've made your fantastic point. We agree with you. But today, we do not wish, even if we entertain your plea, our sole decision is whether to send him back or whether to keep him here in Dominica. That is to send him back to Antigua or not. And be that as it may, I think what it will do, 50%, 60%, my gut feeling is they will shunt him back to Antigua saying that, look, you've illegally come here. We'll send you back. Then you and India decide what you want to do because you've escaped India and you've come to Antigua, and let Antigua and India battle it out. Why the hell should we get
so
into
which
totally.
by the way suits Mr. Choksi just as fine, because right now
That's exactly.
the government of Antigua's case against him for revoking citizenship is being heard by a court in Antigua. So Tuhin, then we're back to square one essentially. Then we can't expect Mr. Mehul Choksi to return to India anytime soon, because he'll go through the lower courts, then he'll go through the appellate courts, and eventually to the Supreme Court. Like in the case of Nirav Modi and like in the case of Vijay Mallya, we're basically looking at the next few years ahead before something concrete happens in this case.
Well, unfortunately, the legal entanglements are something which cannot be wished away. But I'm sure anybody who has followed the case would agree that the defense put forth by his lawyer, at least now, is absolutely contrived. So at least today, I am pretty sure that he would be handed back to Antigua. And one has no idea sitting over here how much time the litigation process over there would take, but at least the full-fledged support of the Antiguan Prime Minister should help us in expediting the case.
And you don't believe for a moment what the lawyer is claiming about him being abducted, because the lawyer is saying, why would anybody who is fleeing of his own will, what explains the injury marks, right? If somebody is fleeing of his own will, why wouldn't he carry his passport? You think that's all just a cock and bull story that the lawyer is coming up with?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he very clearly, the first information that came out was that he went to meet his girlfriend on the sly. And for all he could have been beaten for other purposes. So, I mean, let me not comment on it. We have seen all, the lawyers of the accused are experts in hoodwinking cases, are experts in falsehood. So I don't think that has any truth in it. And in any case, let us not deviate from the core issue. Choksi has been, the very fact that he continued to live in Antigua has been called out by the Antiguan Prime Minister. The citizenship which he holds now was an act of fraud.
Okay, Anshul Avijit, I mean, both with Antigua and with Dominica, India has very good relations, very good bilateral relations with both of these countries. So even if he were to be sent back to Antigua, it doesn't mean that he's going to be a free man and he's going to live a great life there. He's going to be facing the music of the law, as it were, in Antigua, where it is upon him to prove that why his citizenship should continue, despite the fact that he concealed information of the cases that were pending against him, information about the Interpol Red Corner notice, etc., at the time that country decided to give him the citizenship.
Absolutely right. I mean, when he goes back there, he should face the full, force of the law in that country. If it's not in India, well, at least he should face it there. If he's got it, he's a serial offender, it seems. So it's no surprise that he's got his citizenship out there through fraudulent means. Look, I have no position on him. As an official Congress party spokesperson, I have no position on how the case will go either way or the other. I mean, the idea is to get him back to India so he can account for his sins and the amount of sins that continue to mount in this government regarding bank fraud. I keep coming back to that because that is a larger story, because otherwise it's a legal case. This court will say something else. I mean, it's up for the Dominican court to decide how powerful the red corner notice is or whether he can be sent back. It's quite puzzling to see when the authorities said that, he is actually a citizen of India, when according to the Representation Act, according to the Indian Citizenship Act, you can't really hold dual citizenship. So, you cease to be the citizen of India once you get the citizen of another country. I mean, it's not that,
Swapnil,
you want to
respond? Yeah, Swapnil, you want to respond to that, because we have got clarification through the course of the day from both the MEA and the MHA that just because an Indian citizen acquires the passport of another country or the citizenship of another country does not automatically revoke his Indian citizenship. Of course, India does not recognize dual citizenship, but the case has to be closed. The revocation of the Indian citizenship has to be done, and there's a process for it. It's not that just because he's become an Antiguan citizen, he ceases to become an Indian citizen automatically. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, Zaka, you're absolutely right there. Simply because Section 9(2) of the Citizenship Act 1955 empowers the central government as the sole and final deciding authority, especially in criminal proceedings such as this, because everybody would here create a scam, run away with the money, take away the citizenship of another country, and say that, hey, by the way, my Indian citizenship is lost now because I've taken up citizenship of blah, blah, blah. So I'm not answerable to the Indian authorities under the Indian law at all. So obviously the discretion has been given to the central government, and it's a settled law of the Supreme Court and other high courts of the country also, as far as that aspect is concerned. So this is entirely a prerogative of the central government. Now, as far as the most important question is as to why he didn't leave, he left Antigua without a passport, that means he was abducted. Obviously, he wanted to build up this theory of abduction and human rights abuse. Otherwise, if he goes with his passport in his hand, albeit a questionable passport, because this matter of his passport and citizenship is going on in Antigua. Obviously, because he wants to show that he was abducted. Otherwise, if he's with his passport, that means he's voluntarily leaving the country.
So you're saying that he was trying to get to Cuba and then eventually to the United States seek asylum?
Yes, absolutely. Because then, the point is very simple. Understand this, Zaka. For some vaccines, India is in a position to dominate over Antigua and put all diplomatic channels powerfully and say that, look, extradite this man. If they can do that with Nirav Modi, it took a little bit of time there, albeit being London there. So obviously, with those countries like London and the United States, there is a whole process involved. But with Antigua, some country like Antigua, where India can really dominate over, and predominate, say that push this guy out, otherwise we'll stop.
I tell
India
you
is in a
what,
better position.
Let's be fair. It is at the end of the day a sovereign country. It has judicial
It
processes,
is, but in terms of,
and this case is also pending before a court of law in that country. So let's give them at least that much. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up. I want to thank Swapnil Kothari. I want to thank Anshul Avijit as well as Tuin Sinha. In moments from now, we will have this case in a court in Dominica. Mehul Choksi, of course, will be represented by lawyers. The case will also be made out by the Antiguan authorities as to why he should be deported, not to Antigua, but to India. The Indian government is also trying to implead itself in this case, again, to make the point that this man is obtained his Antiguan citizenship illegally, and therefore he should be deported to India, where he is due to stand trial for a number of crimes, including, of course, criminal conspiracy, defrauding a public bank, and, of course, the whole host of charges that he faces in both the ED and the CBI cases against him. That's a wrap. I'll catch you again at 9 o'clock. Shivani will be joining you on the other side.
Choksi must have shifted base. No possibility of abduction, but we are verifying details with authorities.
The Dominican government is cooperating with the Antiguan and Indian governments. Mr. Choksi will be deported from Dominica.
plane has been sent to Dominica to bring back Choksi. The private plane was chartered from Qatar. Top government sources say officials flew to facilitate the emergency certificate.
After legal consultations, the MEA will file an affidavit in the court on behalf of the Government of India.
Can you confirm or deny that you ever met this gentleman, Chetan Choksi?
No, I do not know Chetan Choksi.